Hi everyone, thanks for joining me again. So I got sent the Lanshan 2 Pro on gearfind.com, link in the description. No import taxes to UK, absolutely fine. Took about a week, maybe a day more than a week, something like that. Yeah, absolutely spot on really. No complaints with the service and I recommend them. There's a few things I want to talk about that are just you can talk about with tents in general. The Lanshan Pro series, it's got an advantage in it, and it's what interests me with it is that it's made from silnylon. You have to seam seal it yourself because the seams where the stitching is aren't waterproof, and they don't give you the seam sealant. Now, I've seen loads of people comment on this online. I've seen people like coating their tents in Fab-Seal and like just all sorts of nonsense. The manufacturers are really clear about this stuff. It's just straightforward. The material itself is waterproof. It's just the stitching, yeah? It's the stitching that needs to be done. And there's a reason why. You might, I understand that people would hear that and then say, why don't they do it in the factory? Okay, right. When you buy a Van Gogh Banshee, it is made from a different material, from PU coated nylon. And the thing is with PU coated nylon is it is heavy. It tears much more easily and it doesn't compress down. The advantage of it is that you can tape the stitching areas and seal it in the factory. So you can do that with it. But you get a bulky, heavy tent that tears much more easily. So when you get a silnylon tent, the advantages are it compresses down much smaller, it weighs much less. The Lanshan 2, the Lanshan Pro compared to the original one, which was PU coated, the Lanshan Pro is 3 times stronger because it's made from this silnylon material. The disadvantage is that you have to seal it yourself. It is just, you can't get a machine to do it. So they'd have to do it manually and the price would just be too high and people wouldn't buy them. It takes about an hour to seam seal something. I've done it with something else before. A lot of other tents that are of this type, you have to seam seal them as well yourself. It's just the way it is with this kind of tent. The other thing with this is they don't send you the sealant. They don't give it to you. And the reason they don't give you the seam sealant is because it's not allowed on the plane. It's just as simple as that. So you have to see this as a small additional purchase. It's just like £10 or something for some seam sealant. They do give you the syringe tube. It's inside the peg bag when you get the tent. It's just this. Put your seam sealant in the end of it, and then you can use that to go along the stitching. To me, the advantages of the silnylon tent massively outweigh the advantages of the PU coated tents. Tents that you get that are PU coated are just heavy, they don't compress down very well, and it just tears much more easily. Now you might find people then start quoting you things about hydrostatic heads. The hydrostatic head is higher on a PU coated tent. But here's the thing of it. I've done a video about this before, but it is very clear. Hydrostatic head is just some nonsense manufacturers use in order to get you to buy tents. As you put more coatings onto a tent, it becomes more waterproof. It doesn't mean it gets stronger. In some cases, like with PU coating, it actually gets weaker because it's more tearable. The silnylon tents, like this, have got a bit of stretch in them. And because they've got that little bit of stretch in them, because they've not got the PU coating, which is stiff, that stretch gives you some leeway when the wind's buffeting your tent and pushing it around. Ignoring Cuban fiber tents, if you look at tents like Hilleberg, they're made from silnylon because it's a very, very tough material. And if you look at the lower end of the market, then you'll find that you get the PU coated tents because it's all in one. People don't want to have to seam seal things and do that. And if that's for you, that's absolutely fine. For me, I will always prefer to have a silnylon tent over a PU coated one. It's just that much stronger. And for me, that's the important bit. You can feel that stretch. You know, with some of the silnylon things, there's a thing online you can see where someone pushes a pen through the material and you can just rub it back together again. The fibers like reassemble themselves if you just rub the material with your fingers because it's so stretchy. It just stretches out of the way of the pen and then you can push it back together again. If you did that on the PU coated tent, you'd just punch a hole in it and that would be it. There's a hole. That's what I'm talking about. That's the difference in the qualities of the materials. And I think as people that are campers, and especially people that are going to start reviewing tents, you need to have some idea, like we need to have some ideas. So I'm trying to educate you guys on this now. If you don't know this stuff, you don't have to understand this stuff in detail. I don't understand it in detail, but I can see the differences and I can experience the differences in these materials. And a lot of this is kind of obvious once you start actually paying attention to it. And then you can start making more informed decisions. If it's made from silnylon, the whole tent can kind of stretch and shift a bit because it's a slightly stretchy material. It's not acting so much like a sail would. It's acting more like something that can shift and bend, and that gives you some extra strength and rigidity. Cuban fibrous side, that's a different discussion. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about PU nylon versus the silicon coated nylon. So the Lanshan Pro series, to me, I think is really kind of interesting possibility because the price point of it is so low. It's got all of these advantages, and the disadvantage of adding the silicon sealant yourself is something that just takes a short period of time on one day and then it's done and you've got it. The only thing I would add to it as well though is that when you get the silicon sealant, I'll leave a link in the description for the one that I've used. You have to get one that's designed for tents. You can't just buy a general silicon sealant. Don't do that. Yeah, that's not gonna work. I've seen people put in the wrong stuff on their tents. Please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. You can drop me a comment as well if you want. I'm going to be putting the tent up, looking through it and giving you my thoughts on it and so on as well in the next video. So take care. Bye bye.